fortunately by now we're getting good at it. I'm sure that we broke pretty much every speed record out there. Not that we intended upon doing that.
Look at that, boss man. 11 and a half hours.
What time are we on? What time are we on?
5:30.
Well, that's not bad.
That's really good.
Bear was following our progress on the satellite, and he was just astounded because the morning we're on the Labrador coast, and that night we're in Baffin Island. And when you see it on the chart, it's a long way.
You made it.
So getting into Pond Inlet, the icebergs are getting thicker and the waves are getting bigger. And again, we can't just go to the waves like we would like to, and the waves are coming at a really bad angle and they're breaking. So I've got whoever was navigating telling me, big one coming. I could look over, navigate my way up the wave face, safely get over the other end and then resume course. Then it's getting cold and the moon came out, and it was really kind of surreal and beautiful because it all ended and we got into these calm waters, and we had Bear to meet the next day.
Welcome, start of the Northwest Passage expedition. Well done Dave and Ben and JC for completing the delivery leg. A huge mission.
These guys were very experienced in what they were doing. This wasn't their first kick at this by any means.
What happens with a polar bear is it will wander up and down checking out the scent. So it won't generally come charging in. They'll wander up and down because they'll be a little bit wary.
They're well-established travelers. They've been around. You know, it turns out like he's flown over Mount Everest in an ultralight. You know, things like that. I mean, just crazy adventures. We refueled the boat in Pond Inlet and again sucked up the culture that was there.
Take care, my friend. Look after
Take care, Bear.
Thank you for all your help.
See you, Ivan. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for your help.
Worst case scenario with Bear Grylls.
That's it. Well, let's hope that's not the case.
It's cool.
Okay, good. Give us a push.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we made it to our first landfall and our first campsite, and there's big icebergs that are sweeping along the coast. So you don't want to anchor your boat along the coast anywhere because a big iceberg comes in the middle of the night and now your boat isn't anchored to the shore anymore. The big iceberg comes and it just takes it all away. So they camped on the shore, and Bear says, "Where are you staying?" I said, "Well, I think I'm going to stay on the boat. I just feel more comfortable. I don't want to leave it out here." And I was doing it BC style. I had a blue Canadian Tire tarp and a real nice Canadian Tire sleeping bag of unknown rating, which was a really good idea until the boat weathercocked into the wind in the middle of the night and the cold Arctic air was just blowing through the tent like crazy. So I didn't get much sleep. It was total redneck camping. The north is vast beyond comprehension. And the colors and the textures and the constantly not changing but changing scenery, I don't know how to describe it because a lot of it's very, very bleak. There's like the prairies, there's not too much change. But then when it does change, it's full of surprises. Visiting Beachy was a much different experience than I'd ever had in my life, which is where the first members of the ill-fated Franklin expedition were buried. The Franklin expedition left England with two very, very well-provisioned, very, for the day, very high-tech vessels. These vessels were involved in the shelling of Boston Harbor in 1812. So in their time, they were the space shuttle of the era. There's no doubt about it. And they were fitted to boot with steam locomotives, desalinization plants, 3 years worth of food. So make no mistake, this was no haphazard effort. The voyage was fairly much without incident until they got into Beachy Head and they spent the first winter, and that's where the first crew members died. And from there on, things just went worse and worse and worse. Eventually, the captains died. The crews abandoned the ships in the ice, tried to make their way down Prince William Sound with the ship's boats and provisions, trying to make it to Canada and to make it to safety of warm weather. And they all died. And they didn't die in a very happy way. There's bears, there's wolves, there's the cold, and there's the loneliness. And one can only imagine what those poor wretches went through. We approached the grave sites. On the 4 grave sites are 4 giant Arctic hares standing at attention. So in the middle of this stark, foreboding, lonely place with unimaginable solitude, here's these 4 Arctic hares as if standing at attention on these graves. And that was my introduction to the Franklin expedition. Chills went up and down my spine, and I've always been a fan of the folklore that has surrounded this whole story, and to be standing there and just even to imagine how much work it was for them to craft the original gravestones and the boxes that they buried people in, and to dig into the permafrost. Just the feeling around there was quite extraordinary.
To the sea.
All the shock and the G is absorbed, here, and that's where we want absorbing it on those rather than on our backs.
It was great. I mean, every time they'd finish a leg or any time they were on the boat, everyone had nothing but accolades. These people have been on a lot of different boats and experienced with a lot of different pieces of equipment. And it was great to know that scratch one off the list, that in our preparations and that we had gotten it right. Resolute's the most northern town. So yeah, it's very stark. There's not much there. It's the stopping off point. If you want to go to the North Pole, you go to Resolute. Everywhere where Bear went, there was a crowd. They knew what was going on, and word traveled fast. And every time he set foot on the shore, there was a welcoming committee. Mind you, there was for us as well. But we just didn't have anybody there that was of real celebrity status.
Okay, yeah. You ever seen them sealing on the ice, right?
Yeah.
And they poke that with, and then they hold it with this. You can catch whales with this. This goes under the skin.
Yeah.
And you see how this curves? It goes back and it just stops like that. If you want a souvenir from me.
What a kind present.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're ever up north. Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm going to keep that very special. Wow.
Peel Sound or anywhere where there's ice, the ice has the effect of flattening the waters. Now, things can change. Currents can change. Wind can change. A shift in the wind conditions, and it's going to put you in jeopardy. And that's exactly what happened to the Frenchman that was trying to row through the Northwest Passage. He just found himself in a position where the ice was starting to hem itself in. It's very dangerous, and it's very, very real, because ice just doesn't stop. It's like lava. It's an immovable force. There's nothing you can do about it. Well, how lucky is that? You get stuck in the ice, and you have Bear Grylls is there with the latest state-of-the-art boat. I mean, it was uncannily lucky.
Not just on our own, and we're also towing our friend the Frenchman in his little boat. He was very worried about getting trapped in the ice and put out a call for rescue. So we're towing him through the ice. We've got his dog Pico on board here.
Merci John. Merci.
Bon voyage.
Thank you guys.
Bye bye, Pico. Bon courage.
Yeah, right out of the blue, Bear decides to go wakeboarding. I guess they promised that they'd do that. But they did all sorts of crazy things. They went swimming up there and, ugh, not me. No. No, they went swimming with like swimsuit style swimming in the Arctic. Which I wasn't going to have any part on. I'm having enough of an adventure, thank you. So by the time we get to Pawlatuck, I'm done. I've had enough adventure, I've had enough cold, I've had enough ice, and I just want to go home in the worst way. And so Bear gets me aside, and he says, "You'll never forgive yourself if you don't finish this up." So I thought, well, I'm going to go if I can get, certain people to go with me, and the one certain person that I always count on to go out for really crazy boat rides is my friend Scotty Barnes. So I phoned Scotty Barnes out of the blue, and yeah, he says, "I'll be up there on the next plane."
The first thing we did is I had absolutely no experience with ice at all. So my first thing was we had a bit of an interview with the captain of the Hans Explorer, and he explained ice charts to us. But that was something we did about 10 minutes before we left.
You get the seed planted in your brain, and then you start to rationalize it, and then you look on the map, you think, oh, it's not that far. The day before that, I was going home. The day after the adventures, it's on again. And that's the way it went down.